This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Tuesday morning. Let's talk about some news. So we have the big government shakeup that is taking place right now in Kiev. It is not only happening within the Zelensky regime, but it is also a government shakeup that is taking place on a local level as well in a lot of cities and towns throughout Ukraine as well. You have a lot of government officials in various positions who are jumping ship, it seems. They're either resigning voluntarily or they're being forced to resign because of some sort of scandal. And they're looking to get out of Dodge. That's kind of the situation taking place right now. So on a government level, you have the deputy to the office of the president, Mr. Kirill Timoshenko. He resigned the other day, and I believe that his resignation was a voluntary resignation because he actually posted his resignation letter on the internet, on social media. So it seems like he was someone that wanted to resign and wanted to cash in his chips and to get off of the sinking ship. So he is gone. We have the resignation of the Deputy Prosecutor General, Mr. Alexei Simonenko. Now, his resignation, I believe, was a forced resignation, a type of resignation / firing, because he was embroiled in some sort of winter Spanish holiday scandal. Allegedly, this guy, not allegedly, he did, because we have the photos. He went to Spain over the winter holidays with his family, and this holiday, from what I understand, allegedly, was paid for by some sort of Ukraine oligarch or something like that, and he posted his holiday photos of him and his family in Spain on social media, on Instagram and stuff like that, and this caused a scandal in Ukraine. Well, because you can't have the Deputy Prosecutor General taking a holiday in Spain while his country is fighting a conflict back home. The optics just look terrible, and then you have the whole narrative that all of this was being paid for by some sort of oligarch, something like that. So, I imagine that the oligarch is not paying for this guy's holiday out of the goodness of his heart. I imagine that he pays for these things and in return wants certain favors from the prosecutor general. Something along those lines is what's going on there. Those are the allegations that are floating around with Simonenko, the deputy prosecutor general. And then you have the scandal of the Minister of Defense, Mr. Reznikov. Now, he was not fired or forced to resign or anything like that, but he came very, very close to being thrown out of government. And his scandal revolves around the purchasing of food supplies for a price that was well above, for prices that were well above what those food supplies sell for at Ukrainian retail chains. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of food supply purchases for troops, for the military, for soldiers. So there was an investigation that took place. These allegations came out via a media investigation, and then there was an investigation that took place in the Zelensky government and the parliament. At the end of the day, they allowed Reznikov to stay in his position as Minister of Defense. In his defense, Reznikov said that the price discrepancy was due to technical errors. That's what he said. And that's how he explained away the differences in price. But my feeling on this, and this is just my hunch, it's that the United States and NATO, they told the Zelensky regime, they told the Ukrainian parliament, they said, look, this is not the time to be firing your Minister of Defense. So let's just make this scandal go away. And that's my hunch as to what happened. But this type of setup is something that's very common in Europe. This is how people in ministry positions, like the Minister of Defense or the Minister of the Interior or something like that, this is how they make their money. This is how these guys become multi-millionaires, and in some cases billionaires, is they get appointed these minister cabinet level positions, and they make deals with suppliers of products and services, and they buy these products and services in coordination with the supplier at prices that are just much, much higher than what they would normally be sold for. That's how they make money. That's why EU politicians, that's why they want to get into these positions like Minister of Defense or Minister of the Interior or Minister of Development or something like that. Those are the most sought after cabinet positions because you're dealing with a lot of procurement of goods and services. So, getting one of these minister positions means that you're going to be making a whole lot of money. I mean, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars by the time your term as minister is over. So, this situation to me is textbook corruption. I'm not saying Reznikov did this. I'm just saying that this is how corruption is done when you reach the level of minister in a government, especially in governments in Europe. You make a deal with the food supplier. You tell that food supplier, sell me these food supplies at this amount of money, and you divvy up the profits. Hey, sell me these tanks. Sell me these Leopard 2s. I know they go for $1 million, but sell them to me for $2 million, and let's take that million and divvy it up. That's how they make their money. But anyway, Reznikov, he was spared, and he will remain as Minister of Defense. A whole lot of scandals happening in the Zelensky regime. A whole lot of scandals these past couple of weeks. Beautiful tree, huh? It's like the tree of wisdom. The tree of wisdom in Nicosia. That's what I'm going to call this tree. I've been here before. I actually think I called this tree the tree of wisdom last time I was here, like 6-7 months ago. Anyway, so a lot of scandals taking place in Kiev at the moment. And by the way, there were also a lot of government resignations on local levels as well. Like people who were in positions of like local mayor or stuff like that, or deputy mayor or governor, or these types of positions as well. So you had a lot of resignations and stuff like that taking place in Ukraine the past couple of days. Not a good look for Zelensky. This is all coming at a time where you had the helicopter crash of the Minister of the Interior. He died in this helicopter crash that took place about a week ago, and his entire staff. They died in this helicopter crash. You have the case of the military intel guy, Budanov, where he came out and he said that they assassinated one of the chief negotiators from the March time periods, from the March negotiation time period. He was assassinated because he wasn't doing stuff that he was told to do, and they knocked him off. So you have that admission coming out. You then have Arestovich. He resigned the other day, and this is Zelensky's BFF, his best buddy, the Baghdad Bob Zelensky mouthpiece, the propagandist, the chief propagandist. He resigned, and not only did he resign, but now he's hanging out in Kiev and he's spilling the beans on all of Zelensky's lies. And it's really interesting to listen to the stuff that Arestovich is saying. Just the other day, he said that the national anthem of Ukraine, and I quote, is a national disaster. Quote, very curious lines in our anthem. It goes like this: we will lay down our soul and body for our freedom. Tell me, is there any constructive social engineering in our anthem? This is Arestovich in Ukraine saying that their national anthem is a disaster. I'll say it again. if I was Arestovich, I would get out of Ukraine like ASAP. And if he doesn't get out of Ukraine and he continues to say these things and he remains okay, then there's no doubt about it that this guy is being protected, either by a very powerful oligarch or a deep state forces, or a three-letter agency or something. No doubt about it. Because I don't see how you could live in Kiev at this moment, someone of Arestovich's stature and notoriety, and saying these things, and you haven't been taken out yet. I don't see how you can do that unless you're absolutely 100% protected. Either way, if he's not protected, then he needs to get out of Ukraine like ASAP. There are rumors that a lot of these government officials that are resigning, like Tymoshenko, there are rumors, and these are just rumors, that Tymoshenko is actually, the reason he resigned is because he wants to cash in his chips and bolt, get out of Dodge type of scenario. And the Zelensky regime, and that may be true actually, because the Zelensky regime, they just passed a law saying that these government officials, none of them can leave the country unless they're on state business. So that leads me to believe that the Zelensky regime is very worried, very panicky, that government officials are just going to say, you know what? I've got all of these millions sitting here. I've got all these assets. The ship is sinking. Let me resign. Let me get my cash, throw it in a suitcase, and go live in France or the UK or something, or Miami. Go move to Miami, buy a villa in Florida. I don't know, but that's the reason why the Zelensky regime would pass a law like that, would pass legislation like that, saying no government officials can leave the country unless they're on official state business. They're worried that people are going to start jumping ship because things are so bad. I mean, they're building fortifications right now in Kiev because they're so worried about a Russian attack towards Kiev. And there's videos and photos of all these fortifications being built in Kiev. The Zelensky regime, they don't know from which direction the Russians are going to come from. They're in complete panic mode because they don't know if the Russians are going to continue to move from the Donbass west towards Kiev. They don't know if that's one possibility. We know that Bakhmut is in effect in an operational encirclement, or it will be in an operational encirclement any day now. There's only one road that is left to supply the Ukraine military in Bakhmut, and from what I understand, that road is also under heavy Russian artillery fire. So for all intents and purposes, Bakhmut is in one form or another in an operational encirclement. So they're worried about the Russians to the east in Donbass. They're worried about the Russian advances in the south in Zaporozhye, and the Russians are advancing. It seems like they're advancing at a much quicker pace than what we were seeing in Donbass. And we know that the Zelensky regime, they were moving military resources from the south to Bakhmut to plug up the hole in Bakhmut. And now there's reports that they're moving resources from Bakhmut back down to Zaporozhye in the south to plug up the hole in Zaporozhye, because the Russians are advancing there. And there's the worry that the Russians are going to advance from Belarus down south. So, I mean, it's your typical picture of a dam, like you have your walls of a dam and there's just holes, and you're just trying to plug up, those holes, but the water just keeps on coming through. No matter what hole you plug up, the water breaks through a different part of the wall. And, the collective West, they think that tanks are going to be the wonder weapon that's going to be able to plug up all of these holes. And you have some people like Ben Hodges talking about a counteroffensive towards Crimea. The tanks are going to break through Russian defenses in Crimea. In the south, they're going to move towards Crimea, and then you can have the long-range ATACMS missiles, and they can strike into Crimea, and you have all of this talk. Okay, maybe not. But right now, the reality on the ground is that the Zelensky regime is in panic because they don't know from which direction the Russians are going to be coming from, and the Russians may not come from any direction. Maybe they're not going to advance in any direction. They're just going to move very slowly and just consolidate their gains and do that. So, maybe they'll advance from all three directions at once. Who knows? Who knows? But you can definitely see the panic setting in, not only in the Zelensky regime, but from the collective West. And that's one of the reasons why you have this whole tank debacle, this tank saga taking place. By the way, the U.S., according to a statement from John Kirby, I forgot his title. He has this huge title, John Kirby. But anyway, he said that the United States will not twist the arms of Germany and force it to supply its Leopard tanks to Ukraine. That's an interesting about face from the Biden White House. I wonder if the Biden White House is realizing that, Leopards are not going to make the difference. Or at least some people in the Biden White House, if they realize that Leopards are not going to make the difference. Or if this is just some sort of misdirection. Publicly, they're saying they're not going to twist Germany's arms. Privately, they're going to twist Germany's arms. But so far, the Pentagon has said Abrams are not going to Ukraine, at least not this moment. And it seems like the Pentagon understands that the Abrams are not going to make any difference whatsoever in the conflict. It's just going to really bog down the Ukraine military. But Germany so far is still holding. They're still holding on to this policy of you send your Abrams first, and then we'll send our Leopards. Even though Germany's going to send something like 19 Leopards that were used for training exercises, like old Leopards that were used for training purposes, they're going to send them to Ukraine as a token gesture. Perhaps they think that sending these 19 old Leopards are going to relieve some of the pressure that they're getting from their EU partners. The Wall Street Journal, they ran an article the other day saying that U.S. tanks should go to Taiwan over Ukraine. And the WSJ said that European allies should step up in their own neighborhood. Oh boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. That is not good if you're the EU to see articles like this in the Wall Street Journal. That is not good at all. Morocco has denied sending T-72 tanks to Ukraine. There was a story yesterday saying that Morocco is the first country in Africa that is now going to be sending tanks to Ukraine. And this was all over the internet. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. So I didn't want to report on this until, I don't know, I just felt like something wasn't right with this story. Morocco handing over tanks to Ukraine. Something didn't feel right. And sure enough, Morocco has denied sending T-72 tanks. Quote, the T-72 tanks purchased earlier in Belarus were undergoing modernization in the Czech Republic, and it was the Czechs who transferred them to Ukraine in violation of the terms of the contract. The Czechs violated the contract in favor of Ukraine after the intervention of America and the Netherlands. This is a statement from Morocco. So they're basically throwing the Czech Republic under the bus there. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. Maybe Morocco's told the Czech Republic, look, if you want to send the tanks to Ukraine, send them. Maybe the Czech Republic sent them without Morocco's permission. Who knows? But Morocco is saying, on record, they're saying, we didn't sanction this. The Czechs are breaking the terms of our agreement. Would it be the first time that we see the European Union breaking terms of an agreement? Would it? And we actually have a Swiss publication, I think. A Swiss publication. They ran an article. Let me try to find it here. I think I bookmarked it, if I'm not mistaken here, because it did catch my eye. Yes, I did. The Swiss newspaper Nur Zeitung. They said that one of the reasons for Germany's refusal to supply tanks to Ukraine is because the Germans have finally realized that that this would be bad for business for them to send their Leopards to Ukraine. They've realized that the Americans, they would like to see Germany empty out all of their Leopard inventory, hand it over to Ukraine so that they can then give Germany Abrams tanks. And so, according to this article in this Swiss publication, the Germans realize what the U.S. is trying to do, and they're saying, no, this would be bad for business. If we give up all our Leopards, then we're left with nothing, and so we're going to be forced to buy the Abrams tanks. So that was an interesting article as well. I mean, we know that the Estonian government, from what I understand, they've emptied out their entire inventory of weapons and they've handed it over to Ukraine. I mean, they've given everything they have. At least all their, I think all their artillery, they've emptied out everything. Something like that. And they're now, they've got nothing anymore. I mean, Estonia's like, that's it. They have no more weapons. It's crazy. And they're proud of it too. And they're proud of it. And I was just like, this is just craziness. But Estonia now, they are saying that they would like to close the Gulf of Finland to Russia. I talked about this like 3 months ago that Estonia was trying to figure out a way to close off the Gulf of Finland to the Russians. This would pretty much block off St. Petersburg in essence. And they were talking with Finland, and they were thinking of a way to create some sort of mechanism where if a Russian ship were to pass through the Gulf of Finland, then they would fire on that ship. They would send warning shots, and if the ship didn't turn back, they would sink it. And now we're getting more rhetoric coming out of Estonia that they are going to reintroduce this idea with Finland to block off the Gulf of Finland to Russia, which would essentially mean World War III right there. I mean, something like that would mean that the Russians would absolutely send a ship to pass through, and if Estonia or Finland were to do anything, it would be World War III right there. So this is just a ridiculous idea. I can't imagine something like this being taken seriously, but there you have it. Can we pass a rule for NATO or from the European Union? Can we put a rule that says something like no country is allowed into the European Union or NATO unless it has a population of over, 5 million people? Can we pass something like that? I mean, I think it would probably make the world a much safer place if NATO were to institute a rule that said if a country has a population of 5 or 10 million people, then they can't qualify for NATO or for the European Union. Just saying. Just saying. Oh, oh boy. So let's do one more story and we'll wrap things up. And let's talk about this scandal coming out of, and I'll do a clown world, by the way. Let's talk about this scandal coming up that has surfaced from Poland. And it has to do with one-time Polish, I think he was defense minister, but he was definitely foreign minister because he was involved in the Maidan coup in 2014, Mr. Sikorski. Let's take a walk, actually. I've been going back and forth here, but let's walk. Let's hit the city streets. And Mr. Sikorski, he made a statement yesterday saying that I think he was giving an interview to a radio interview to ZET on Monday, and yeah, his comments came during an interview to Radio ZET on Monday. And he said that during the first couple of weeks of Russia's special military operation, like the first 10 days, the Law and Justice government, Duda and Morawiecki, they were actually considering jumping into Ukraine and taking Lviv. That's what Sikorski said. That's what he told this radio interview. Now Morawiecki, he came out, the Prime Minister of Poland, he came out and told Sikorski to to shut his trap. Sikorsky, he was palling around with McCain during the Maidan coup in 2014, married to chief neocon Anne Applebaum. Anyway, that's what he said. He basically said that Poland was absolutely considering, during the first couple of weeks of the conflict, was absolutely considering taking a chunk of Ukraine and making it theirs. Quite a revelation from Sikorsky. But Ovechkin denies it. I don't know if Sikorsky is saying this for domestic political reasons. I don't think he is part of Law and Justice. People in Poland, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure what party Sikorsky belongs to, but maybe he was doing this to weaken Law and Justice. Maybe it's true. Who knows? He could be lying. He could be speaking facts. Maybe it's a little of both. Maybe it's being done for domestic political. I have nowhere to walk. I'm going to have to walk that way across. See, the road is under construction, so let me double back here. So, yeah, maybe it's for domestic political reasons. Maybe it's truth. Maybe it's both. Either way, it's quite a revelation from Sikorsky. Now, keep in mind, Sikorsky was also the one that sent out that tweet when they blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Like they, I mean, allegedly, the UK, the US, all of these guys, when they blew up Nord Stream 2, allegedly, he actually put out the tweet that said something like, what did he say? Thank you, or something like that. Thank you, US, or thank you, UK. I forget what he tweeted. But that was Sikorsky. And now he's, all right. And now he's coming around saying that Poland wanted to take over Lviv during the first couple of weeks of the SMO. This guy, man. This guy's a real piece of work. I think he's like an EU, like parliament member or something like that as well. But he does cause a lot of trouble for the Law and Justice for the Polish government. He definitely has a big, big mouth. That's for sure. But there's a reason for him saying these things. I'm sure there's some sort of political neocon angle to his statements. No doubt about it. So that was an interesting story as well. And we're going to do a clown world with Boris Johnson, but let me just do one more quick story. It has to deal with the 10th sanctions package that the EU is trying to ram through in February. And I talked about this in a video I did a few days ago, how the 10th sanctions package is going to target Russia's nuclear energy industry, and how a country like Hungary, which has many, many deals with Russia with regards to nuclear energy. Let's just take a quick look. Well, Hungary has a lot of deals with Russia with regards to nuclear energy, and they came out in a statement yesterday and they said that the 10th sanctions package is an absolute no-go. An absolute no-go. Hungary said that in no way are they going to allow the European Union to place sanctions on Russian nuclear energy, because they have many deals with Russia with regards to nuclear energy. And so Hungary, it looks like Hungary is drawing a very firm red line on these sanctions. These sanctions also target the diamond industry as well. And if I'm not mistaken, anyone that knows this, that lives in Belgium, let me know. But from what I understand, Belgium is a big player in the diamond business, and they're not going to like these sanctions either. But these sanctions are being pushed very hard by Poland and Lithuania. So we'll see what will happen with these 10th sanctions later in February. Let's do a quick clown world. And for this clown world, we turn our attention to the king clown himself, Mr. Boris Johnson. And Bojo, he visited Kiev just the other day, visited his best buddy, Zelensky. They hung out. Boris Johnson pledged his eternal support and love for Zelensky. They participated in various nasal exercises together, and Boris then penned this piece in the Daily Mail with the title, "What the hell is the West waiting for?" In an extraordinarily powerful and emotional rallying cry, former Prime Minister implores our allies to give Ukraine all the weapons it needs to win now. And so basically, Boris Johnson makes the case for the UK to send all of its weapons, everything the UK's got, to send it all to Ukraine. A la Estonia, to just empty out all your inventory of everything and hand it over to Zelensky. Because only that way will the Zelensky regime win the war, and according to Boris Johnson, that's the move that will defeat Putin and bring peace and prosperity to the world, according to Boris Johnson in this article. So he is advising the citizens of Britain to empty out all of your weapon inventory, your stockpiles, and start handing them over to Zelensky. What do you guys think in the UK? Is that the right move from Boris Johnson? the king clown himself? Oh boy, I don't know under what authority Boris Johnson went to Kiev. I mean, he is a member of parliament, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken, he is a member of parliament, I think. But I still don't understand on whose behalf he was traveling to Ukraine. Was this sanctioned by the Sunak government? Because Boris Johnson actually takes a couple of digs at Sunak as well. You know, he kind of implies that Sunak is weak. He's dithering by not sending weapons fast enough to Ukraine. Of course, this could also be a cheap stunt on the part of Boris Johnson to ridicule Sunak and to make it seem like Sunak is weak. He's strong, he's tough. He goes to Kiev because Boris Johnson still thinks that hanging out with Zelensky, improves his stature with the British people. And this may be a way of him to try and wiggle himself back into 10 Downing Street. So he could be doing a lot of this for domestic political purposes, as well as whatever orders he's gotten from his deep state overlords. Anyway, Boris Johnson once again makes a clown world. He's the undisputed champion of clown worlds. So that's my video for today, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. And the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Look for my videos, Alexander's videos, the Duran's videos on all of the platforms, the video platforms. We are on Telegram and I already said Rockfin. I got distracted because a cat crossed my path and it just distracted me. But we are on Telegram, on Rumble, on BitChute, and ODYSEE. Telegram, BitChute, Rumble, and ODYSEE. Take care.